What's up everybody? I'm Big Mike. In this video, I want to cover some common eBay scams that you may run into as a reseller. So without further ado, let's get at it. The very first scam that every reseller is probably going to face when they first start reselling on eBay is the zero feedback guy. The zero feedback guy is going to make an offer on one of your products. He's not going to buy it now. He is probably not going to bid on an auction. He is going to make an offer on one of your items. And a lot of times that offer will be for full price plus shipping. That should be your first red flag. When you see the full price plus shipping, why didn't they just click buy it now? The reason for that is that they are trying to get you to go to a third-party site in order to deal with payments, and in that process they will scam you out of your bank account information or whatever they can get a hold of. So if you get an offer on one of your products when you're first starting out and it's a zero feedback person, be very, very cautious. If it is a full price offer plus shipping, ignore it right away. I had a couple of offers when I first started out, and they were all from zero feedback guy, and they're going to have a different kind of name or whatever, but they will always usually have zero feedback or one feedback, if that. Do not ever try to handle payments through a third-party site. First of all, it's against eBay policy. Now, part of that is eBay probably wants to keep their money on their site. But second of all, it's to protect you, the reseller. And the reason for that is that you can get scammed really quickly. I had one that made a lower offer when I was first starting out. And I went back and forth, and they were trying really hard to get me to go to another site to deal with payment. And that's when I first started studying up on the zero feedback guy. So remember that, zero feedback guy, when you're first starting out, most likely a scammer. As you start to gain more and more feedback on your own profile, I've noticed I haven't had to deal with zero feedback guy. So there's that. The next kind of scam that you can deal with are return scams, and there's multiple forms of return scams. A lot of times it may come in the form of a cheaply priced item that somebody buys, and they may just be trying to replace something in their house that they may have lost already, and they will come back with maybe like an item not as described or anything like that. You have a choice as a seller at that point. Do you want to do the return shipping at that point? Do you want to let the person keep it and just refund their money? There's been times where I do allow the buyer to keep their money, and I refund the money. And it's one of those that you just kind of have to follow your hunch on. Most of the time, your buyers are going to be honest. The vast majority of people that are buying from you on eBay are good people that are just trying to find a good deal on an item that they've been looking for. But there are people that will be trying to replace things that they've had, and will be using you to try to get that item for free. I tend to, on cheaper items, go ahead and just refund the money because I don't feel like dealing with it. Sometimes you'll run into this even on as-is items. And they can try to get really nitpicky about the language. So when you are doing your listing, if there's any flaws with the product, make sure that you are very thorough in how you describe everything, especially on as-is products. This is especially prevalent in the gaming community. There is a community of people that buy game systems that are as-is, parts only, and they will dig for that as-is item not as described to try to get refunds on things that they are buying for parts. Because if you can get the part for free, why not go for it? There's a lot of unscrupulous people in those areas. So something to keep in mind with in the gaming community is a lot of times they're looking for a working unit, and they will buy the parts only units until they find a working unit. This isn't always the case. Like I said, you have to use your judgment. To this point, I don't think I've had to deal with that. Most of my parts only items are relatively cheap. I'm pretty thorough on my description, but sometimes in customer service, sometimes you have to take the lick too, and sometimes you have to take the hit. I had an experience at one point with a customer, and I'm not really sure if it was a scam or not. It was a DVD VCR combo player. These are very hot commodities out there. 9 times out of 10, when you list one, the person that's going to be buying it from you is probably somebody that is going to be turning around and reselling it either on eBay, or they're going to be reselling it in a store where they are currently located. And so I had an incident where I had a VCR DVD combo. It was a rather pricey one listed. The person came back and offered a slightly lower amount than what I was looking for, but I went ahead and took the offer. Sometimes I stand by the bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush. The item was thoroughly tested before I sent it. I tested it before I listed it. I tested it before I sent it. Within a couple of weeks, the buyer said that the item powers down and does not accept VHS tapes. Something was kind of going off. My red flags were going off just a little bit with this one. And all they sent was just one little picture of the item still kind of in the box. And I said, well, I will be glad to refund your money as long as you return the item. Once the item is returned, you will get your money back. Got the item back. Item worked perfectly. I watched a 2-hour movie on the VHS side. I watched a 2-hour movie on the DVD side. Never once did it power down. Never once did the VHS side reject the cassette. Either this person had the unit confused with something else, or they were trying to get the item for free so they could turn around and resell it and make maximum profit off of what they were doing. So be wary of that. That one's kind of a subtle one. That one you got to use your better judgment. On really expensive items, you better bet I'm going to expect a return. What was funny about that particular incident was after I relisted it, I even relisted it as a returned item, went into full description of how the item was retested and that everything was working perfectly on it, had videos and pictures lined up with it, got a buy it now immediately, and it was the same buyer. So I sent them a message. This is an item that you returned. Do you still want this item? Never received a reply. So what do you do in that standpoint? Well, your arms are kind of tied. Your hands are kind of tied because that person has made an agreement through eBay and they have paid you money for that item. And so I went ahead, since they didn't respond, I'm really quick on my shipping time. I got it shipped out, and then they never tried to do a return on it. I don't know if maybe they saw my write-up and might have been embarrassed. Maybe they got something switched around. But you have to be kind of wary in those situations because there are people on eBay that are resellers that are trying to buy from other resellers in order to make a profit of their own. There's not necessarily something wrong with that, but when you're trying to take advantage of other sellers and scamming them to try to get refunds, that is absolutely a no-no in my book. And so just keep those things in mind. Another shipping scam that can happen is that they will ask for a refund, that the item is broken. You will allow the return to take place. Sometimes eBay does not even give you that opportunity. The return has to take place. You get the item back and it is not the same item that you shipped. You would think, well, that's pretty easy to catch, but it's not necessarily the case. If you're using electronics or selling electronics or anything like that that has a serial number, take very careful note of what that serial number is, because sometimes you'll get something shipped back to you that is not the same serial number. I personally have not encountered this yet, but I have heard from many resellers that have had this happen to them. Keep an eye on your serial numbers. Sometimes they will send back a broken product to you, and it may just slip under your nose that that was your product and it wasn't, and to begin with. I want to end this video on a positive note though. The vast majority of buyers on eBay are good people and just trying to find a good deal. So if you walk around all the time with your antennas up looking for a scam, you may find yourself getting negative feedback because you may treat a potential customer in a negative light. Always be polite. If you get zero feedback guy, chances are pretty good they're not going to respond to your messages because it's a bot. But be kind in all your messages to people. Be above board. Do everything right. But just be smart in how you handle things. Because like I said, the vast majority of the people that you're going to deal with on a daily basis are good people. And so with all that said, hope you learned something from this. If you did, leave a comment down below. If you have any other input on potential scams that may take place on eBay, leave that down in the comments as well. Once again, I'm a lifetime student and I like to learn these things as well. But I felt like it was important for us to be aware that there are people that will try to take advantage of you through this system. Do not, under any circumstances, try to take payment through a third-party site or anything like that. eBay does do that as a safety measure, not only for themselves, but for you. And I'm not trying to be an eBay shill on this, but trust me, you don't want to lose your identity or your bank account over a $5 toy from McDonald's or something. You know, so just keep that in mind when you begin reselling. I love you guys very much, and laissez le bon temps rouler.